World Development System. Chapter 281. At Sky, at the North Frontier City. Currently, John was thinking of finding a solution to solve the problem of lack of labor in various industries and started his research on the same. John thought, let's check the stats to find the problem and solution. John immediately called Taylor and ordered him to bring him the statistics from the Sky Population Department on the population percentage of the people in various professions. Meanwhile, John was currently watching his system. He saw a new icon that was floating in the system. So this is a package which I can buy. So what is it? Light Industries package on a discount for completing the previous task, special model for Arkan World? The price is 100 million. It seems even if I have 200 million points I won't be able to buy my mecha pack unless I have better privileges. Well, let's buy this package for now. Since I have a country it can anyway be used in any industries and won't go to waste for now. After some time, Taylor hurriedly came with some documents which reflected the statistics on Sky's population in regard to their work and professions. As soon as John saw the documents, he understood where the problem lied. He murmured, so we have 75% of the population engaged in agriculture. And the other 25% is engaged in other work. Taylor was quite surprised by John's tone and immediately explained the situation. Lord, it was due to my intervention. The reason is that, currently, we have an expanding population for which we would need a lot of food in the future, and we can't always rely on other countries for the import of food since there is always a limit on exportation once a calamity occurs. And relying on others will be brewing a disaster in the future for Sky. The Agricultural Ministry too had the same opinion after previous sanctions, and hence we are being cautious even though we have regulated fertilizers and made a state company for it to sell it to farmers in cheap prices so other countries can't get the secret behind it for now. John shook his head and spoke, Nat, I am not blaming anyone, you all did well by taking future disasters in consideration due to our past problems. It means that everyone in various departments is growing and maturing to take wise decisions for the future. Currently, I have my own opinions because of certain plans and developments. Anyway, did you set up a research institute for farming so that we sort out good seeds and hybrids for increased, better and diverse plant yields in the future? Taylor hesitated a bit and spoke, well, we have set up the institute but not a lot of magicians are interested in research related to farming. However, we were only able to fill up 70% of researchers needed by offering them higher salaries and other lucrative state benefits. However, on Professor Will's recommendation, we have also hired skilled farmers who have worked for 20 to 40 years, and it seems that their experience and observations from the past has helped the research team quite a lot and smoothened the research. We might get some results on certain crops in the future. John nodded and spoke. So tell me, what are the problems faced in the agriculture sector for now? Taylor nodded as he took out a document and spoke, currently the farmers face very few problems in regards to yields. Most of the farming families have employed everyone in their family to farming since now there is more work, whether it is plowing, harvesting, separating grains and plants, etc., and all the other work. So basically most of the problems have arisen from extra labor work and less time, which can lead to wasting a lot of food, but since they are earning better income I don't think any one of those farmers will worry. Instead, most of them are happy because of the irrigation facilities we provided that have reduced a lot of their labor. The only problem faced with the Ministry of Agriculture and farmers is that they want to hire more people to reduce their manual labor work so as not to waste any food, but we too want more workers for various industries, and hence other industries too are offering higher wages, which makes those farmers grumble a bit since a lot of youngsters want to travel to the city even though they are offering good wages in villages. Meanwhile, we have strictly ordered the parents of everyone in the kingdom to send their children to state schools that we have built for now and cannot be allowed for child labor. As the bill was passed in the parliament and also your decree was made after the passing of the bill, no one dares to defy it. According to the parliament, only children above 15 can officially work. John thought, it seems children above 15 are considered adults in this world. I guess it can't be changed so fast and I have to go with some flow. John sighed and thought as he nodded and spoke, good. So there is a shortage of labor in all the industries, but logically it is a good thing for the economy on the whole, as this means no one is sleeping hungry or is without a job. Currently, we have a population of 19 million and still have a shortage of labor because of the new industries being created every day and also a lot of new businesses being created on a daily basis. So in short, every industry is booming in Sky for now. John murmured a bit, maybe I should look into system for new machines. I still have a gift box that I got from my last mission. Let's open it for now. Ding! Congratulations on opening the gift box and getting communication systems set for Archon. It includes systems for communication via magic, radio waves and all the other forms. From now on you can buy complete systems on mobile, telephone, telegraph, television cables, computers, etc. John grumbled a bit and thought, arg. Why do I get such advanced systems? Additionally, our research institute already has some papers on magic waves and radio waves. Let's look into the system wall. Agricultural sector blueprints have become green after solving the previous problem in the eastern seas. It looks like it is now available for 25 million points. Hybrid systems. So my system here has gained enough information on magic crystals and other energy sources and has built blueprints customizable for our needs. Well, I will take it. There is also a super lottery system and credit system. WTF 10 million points for one-time Indiana the lottery, and it can be a dud as well as something of extremely high value. As I thought, this system is a complete black-hearted loan shark. This guy charges 30% interest yearly. Meanwhile, what should I do about communication systems? Should I include it only in the military for now or make it public for earning money? Maybe I should do it semi-phases. E-telephone, television with cables and telegraph can be introduced in public sectors. Meanwhile, the wireless systems can be used in the military, and anyway, since I have mastered this tech, we can always hack them and know the thoughts of our enemies and their spies. For now, I should focus on the agriculture sector and reduce the high labor needs over there. After some thought, John asked Taylor, bring me a paper, pen, and a scale. I will need them to draw some important diagrams which will be required to build some machines and reduce labor in the agricultural sector. This will inevitably improve our labor force by at least 25%, 30%, which can be used in other sectors. These production lines will be built on a large scale so that we can provide the agricultural machines to all the farmers on rent to reduce their labor needs and also increase our yields. Taylor nodded and immediately carried out John's order, as he didn't want the diagrams to be leaked out in any way. He spoke, Lord, we have also formed the Cultural Ministry as you asked us previously, and they have done their research and have got some results. Chapter 282. John nodded as he continued drawing the diagrams and asked, so, what were the results from their research? Taylor hesitated a bit and spoke, I think you won't like some of their results. John nodded, understanding, as he smiled and spoke, continue, I can understand that there will always be some problems. One must have an open mind if you want to improve continuously. Taylor nodded seriously and spoke, according to them, in your reign, our country will be peaceful and progress to leaps and bounds, but after you die our country could face many problems both externally and internally. Currently, you are the binding force for everyone in Sky, but the historical wrongs and the influence of the Radiant Church and other countries are very difficult to change. According to them, Sky neither has a history, neither do we have something in common like race, and this would expose us to external threats who would cause internal discord if you are dead. People from Radiant Church, Elias and other bordering countries, etc. would start causing problems. Currently, our only binding force is the common language Sky you created and prescribed in the Institute, as you had already predicted this earlier, and also our War of Independence, which can take deep root in the minds of people who can become future patriots regardless of species and only based on morals. Taylor continued as he saw that John was expecting this sort of answer. According to researchers, this generation and second generation won't have a problem, but they worry about the following generations who will live in peace and never know about our hardships. According to your instructions, the research team was formed of all the various species, and this was their conclusion. According to them, even if you have a capable heir in the future, some people influenced by other countries will see it from the lens of species or would compare him with you to put him down, which would mostly be fanned by external powers. Though the state will be stable in your heir's reign, but his successor will certainly face problems, as the princes would fight for the throne. So, in the opinion of researchers, we should make the new language you created previously to be mandatory to be taught in all the schools since the children are young, and also for official duties after 1 year and semi-mandatory for this year. The common language will slowly become a binding force for Sky in the future and help the ministers and citizens face future problems collectively. John meanwhile thought, though uniting people through language seems crude for now, however, this was also the suggestion provided by Sarah to unite Sky swiftly and efficiently. Okay, that is the way for now. It seems these researchers thought a lot, as they also considered my heirs and hence came to the same conclusion as Sarah for the solution. John nodded as he smiled and spoke, "It's good that they came to this conclusion, or else I would have to write a big column in the Institute to explain our populace and scholars of the future problems which we may face from other countries, but many wouldn't understand about it now, as a lot of people lack such social foresight. Now that we have this research, it is good to explain it to everyone, and I am sure this will become a big catalyst in uniting all the races in Sky at least. Okay, bring a decree and my personal stamp. And also we will publish this column in all of our institutes on this research for scholars so that they can debate, and also so that our country does not face such a calamity in the future after reading this historical research, and be able to sense any of the said problems in the future. They should always remain vigilant against such schemes to remain united. However, Elias most likely won't exist in a 100 years or become fragmented due to certain characters if they make any mistakes, and give us a chance if they wish to invade us again in the future." Taylor too nodded and thought the same on the fate of Elias as he spoke, "My lord, I am sure they will attack us in the future to wash off the previous humiliation they suffered. So most likely we may invade if the need arises by their mistake in the future." Taylor smiled as he thought of his conversation with a demon and human from the Cultural Research Department and spoke, "Actually this result was only possible because our researchers took the sample spaces from other countries as well, which had a grudge against each other, and came to this conclusion, or else they wouldn't have noticed this problem, since many heads in various departments were cultivated by you personally, and the people here have a different mentality, my lord. Even I was quite surprised and become a bit angry after watching the results, but understood the significance since those results were facts and can't be changed, so we have to solve the future problem now with the long-term vision." There was also a good result from other research by the Cultural Institute. John nodded satisfyingly as he continued making the diagrams in a rather very fast speed. After watching him nod, Taylor continued, "After the previous results, the researchers were worried about the food habits and clashes between species due to food habits, but there was a good result due to your distribution of multiple recipes in the populace, which has spread to the villages. Slowly the taste buds and food habits of our populace are changing and becoming more common, so overall it was good according to our researchers. This is the result of the Hope Restaurant and other places you built previously. According to them, we can build the foundation of our country around food, language, and our war of independence, where all the various species fought to remove slavery as an anecdote. And yes, also the first kingdom in the history of this world to remove slavery under your lead. This will certainly increase your prestige as well as the prestige of Sky among the populace of all the countries. I am sure our countrymen would feel proud to have this honor for their country. The land of freedom is what we will call ourselves in other countries. And no businesses and people over here own slaves." John smiled as he completed the diagrams of harvesters, plowing machines, excavators, and other machines which would require in farming, and handed it over Taylor to be passed on. Tornwall, "Ha ha ha, good, so we do have some things in common. A very fine result due to diligent work. Okay, reward the researchers from the Cultural Department with 15,000 gold coins and the various heads with an additional 500 gold coins for their hard work. As for the various common food recipes, you shouldn't worry about them being leaked, because those idiots and spies from other countries would only take these common recipes and use it in their royal restaurants to get a better income against their rivals. Here at Sky, restaurants can save their secret recipes and unique sauces to build themselves. As for us i.e. Sky, we should have a long-term cultural perspective which will be beneficial for us in uniting people in subtle ways. Are there any problems in living habits? And also take these diagrams as well and give it to Tornwall or Tim so that they can build production lines here in the mainland as well as Aurora. These various different types of machines can be powered by all the forms of energy we know currently, so there are multiple diagrams of the same machines. Anyway, I have written all the instructions so you can immediately give these documents to him. And make a copy and seal these documents in our classified records for now. They may get published in a few years after people research it thoroughly. Taylor nodded as he thought deeply and spoke, as far as living habits are concerned, we have not detected any problems because the general populace mimics their leaders and the leaders of various departments are mimicking the lords' palaces and manner from food to clothes and also the use of toilets to keep good hygiene. Basically most of the things are mimicked if possible. John nodded as he thought while speaking, okay. What are the statistics of our newspapers and how many printing companies have been established, and also tell me about languages used in the newspapers. Taylor nodded and spoke, My lord, according to your instructions, currently we have 3 big newspaper companies and 2 small companies in North Frontier City. All the languages are used in the newspaper for now. First publisher is North Frontier Times, it is run by 12 businessmen. It seems that after watching the humongous advertising fees and income of black and white publishers, they thought it was quite a good opportunity, and after learning that large printing machines were sold by your private company Sky manufacturers at various conditions, they were quite happy to launch North Frontier Times and get a pie in the advertising sector. As far as political news is concerned, they only report the various speeches by the leaders and department heads so that people can grasp the intentions of their leaders. Meanwhile, as these companies are new, they don't comment on foreign leaders apart from reporting their public speeches, and they would only follow up with black and white publishers when they start attacking foreign leaders. I have placed a scrutiny team, and hence the owners and reporters there are quite sensitive to political news and won't dare to report fake news, at least for now. As far as political and corruption scandals and cases are concerned, the North Frontier Times have only published 3 political scandals that were investigated quite heavily by them and only disclosed after multiple verifications by their investigating teams. They had even asked for consultations from Professor Glenn and hence have gained courage in reporting as long as they reported truthfully. So they have gained quite a bit of popularity among the locals. One of the cases was related to one of the police officials who was recruited recently in taking multiple bribes from the businessmen, or he would harass them on multiple occasions. That police official was a fallen noble from Elias. Previously, he was a knight who was noticed by one of the officials due to his education, and the various departments lacked men, so he was recruited among the prisoners. The bribes were not noticed initially, but after one merchant resisted initially, then he was continually harassed by that official in the name of quality inspection. This fiasco interested one of the reporters from North Frontier Times, so he started investigating it, and then one day that merchant lost his cool and hit the police officer and got into a fight because of continuous harassment, and since he was a farmer previously without knowing the laws, it was ignored for now as a minor dispute. Chapter 283. Taylor continued seriously. That reporter from North Frontier Times then investigated the matter thoroughly and found the crux of the matter and published the news after gaining Glenn's approval on publishing these scandals, as it was likely that this police officer wouldn't let his higher UPS see this case and dispose off the complaints secretly. It was after this article that this case got reported to the branch police higher UPS, which embarrassed them in a big way, and then big action was taken by them and the branch courts. The official was removed with 4 years of imprisonment, while the merchant was released with a small fine and advice that if he is harassed by officials unfairly, then he can directly report to the police station or write letters to branch police heads and vice heads, and at the same time he can contact the reporters from various newspapers for help if he feels worried. This article was published in the newspapers so as to create awareness among the populace if they faced injustice. John thought and nodded. I should set up an inspection team for various bureaus so as to keep a check on corruption. Meanwhile, the National Security Bureau and the media can keep an eye on the bureau if there is any fudging. Taylor continued with a grim face. The second case was related to the rape case by a spy from Radiant Church against a demon. It seems he was a spy from Radiant Church when the big immigration took place previously, but he couldn't stand working with people of other species, and it was quite hard for him to find workplaces only with humans in Sky. After enduring for months, he couldn't resist, and this incident happened. After a successful investigation by our National Security Bureau via their drugs, it was found that he did that intentionally to sow discord between multiple races, and many of his men were going to do the same as they are still here. He was released to the police bureau and the courts to handle the case according to law, since a lot of reporters were hot on this case. He was given a swift death penalty as he was also a spy. Meanwhile, his properties were seized and compensation was given by the courts from his belongings to the victim. So the case was fully reported to the public so that they can become aware of the Radiant Church's schemes. The National Security Bureau meanwhile is investigating the actions of the followers of the Radiant Church. As for White and Black publishers, Glenn has currently rebranded it to Sky Times since he wants to penetrate this official newspaper into the whole kingdom. The brand, the Black and White Times of the North Frontier City, will be handled by his assistant Prague. The third case was a corruption case by a local leader which was uncovered by them, as the official was duly given a harsh punishment because of his important position. John irritatingly thought, "These miscreants from Radiant Church won't stop until I teach them a lesson." Taking a set of documents, Taylor continued, "The third biggest publishing company shouldn't be called a newspaper company but a magazine, and it is related to lifestyle news, but it is one of the biggest sellers due to a large number of women buying it. It mostly gives the latest news on fashion, food, and other trends in other countries as well as Sky. It seems it was released by Her Highness Diana, Miss Eva, and their friends after they earned quite a sum in Blue Paradise cloth and jewelry stores, which most of us men in the city hate since it empties our wallets for no reason. Basically, this magazine is a subsidiary of Blue Paradise for their advertisement and gossip among women in higher society. Currently, a lot of men are making secret bank accounts to save their money from their wives and girlfriends and hailing the creation of banks currently. Sorry for the unnecessary information." John meanwhile thought, "Speaking of magazines, it makes me remember the mangas and comics of my previous world. Maybe we can provide resources to the artists from Rose Institute and other subsidiaries to start this entertainment culture in art. If I am not wrong, previously during my meeting with that owner Donovan of the Donovan Feather Troupe, he wanted to use the services of our Black and White publishers to make 5,000 books of one of his best plays so that he can sell them both in Elias and other countries. Previously, due to a high load of work, he was rejected by me. I should call him this time around and start a pilot project and open up our printing sector to artists and other businesses. Okay, let's focus on the current situation." John laughed as he smiled and spoke, "Ha ha ha, Taylor, why should you hate it? I think you and your wife earn quite a sum. Anyway, you are too engrossed. How many languages are used in all those newspapers? As for other things, the publishing industry has gained quite a new development. We will anyway earn a lot by opening up the printing and publishing sector via the paper industry." What is Glenn's view on other newspaper companies and the proposal of new publishing companies? Taylor sighed a bit and spoke, "Well, I am quite frugal after my last debacle and bankruptcy in Elias. I guess it has become a habit, and Martha hates my frugalness, which I show in front of her friends whenever I go to Blue Paradise. I was too engrossed, it was my negligence." Coming back to the point, according to the instructions of the Cultural Department, certain laws were passed in the Imperial Court because of their petitions, I mean in the Parliament. So all the languages were used in the newspapers so as not to create problems, and also in our new language class which was available at the Rose Institute and other institutes all over Sky. This condition can be changed for business efficiency after people get accustomed to Sky. Since Sky language has a base of other languages, so not many people are resisting it while learning. As per the suggestion of ministers, we have decided that the new language will not be imposed mandatorily on the public as it will create disharmony. Taylor gave the document to John about the bill from the Parliament as he continued, "As for Glenn's views regarding new publishing companies, he says that it is a good development in the publishing industry since they already get a lot of letters from people all around Sky and they can't handle all the information at once and can't report it without investigation, but he says we should keep our eyes on owners and reporters of these publishing companies if they have any secret contact with higher officials of other countries. And if they do any secret deals with other countries to tarnish the reputation of certain important ministers deliberately with fake news, as Glenn recently saw some spies trying to gain jobs of reporters in white and black publishers. He says that we should send some professionals from the special forces to keep an eye on them while they disguise themselves as reporters. They can also resist their bosses if they notice any malpractice and report the news discreetly to Sky Times or the National Security Bureau. Apart from this, he always says that sales of paper from our paper companies have quadrupled because of the demand by businesses and also because of the demand by publishing companies. He hopes that since we will anyway give away printing presses at least to the governments of other countries for printing banknotes, we should ease the regulations and fully open up our publishing sector in a few years or even this year if possible. Meanwhile, the heads of your paper companies are complaining because of a lack of labor and the need for expansion to meet the future demands of their consumers. As for publishing companies posting fake news, we can create libel laws and national security laws if it hurts the state, since media is one of the pillars of our country to keep ministers in check when they get conceited, and this will be done on both the state-controlled companies and the private companies. John thought as he heard Taylor, "It seems our publishing and paper industry is expanding at a full-fledged rate without any breaks. I guess the demand for paper is increased due to more people being able to read here in Sky, while businesses are also using publishing companies to make their advertisements in the form of leaflets or pamphlets, as I saw earlier in the market, due to increased literacy rate of people. I should tell Glenn that his men can take purchase orders from private business companies if it is related to making leaflets and slogans, but he can't let businesses use the name of black and white publishers, as they themselves are a brand of trust which can't be lost without multiple verifications, and an advertisement from them can rise the fortunes of certain businesses. As far as leaflets are concerned, we shouldn't allow any company to take any purchase orders when it is related to Radiant Church in any way. They are a complete ban and a tumor in my book, whether legally or illegally, though it is against our law of freedom of speech. We will make an unofficial ban by telling the publishing companies. We should first tell the publishing companies discreetly about this. Later on, I will make a viable law that can ban Radiant Church's propaganda so the media doesn't become a double-edged sword for us. Meanwhile, I should tell our spying agencies to start increasing their surveillance against the heads of Radiant Church for information which we can use against them to impose a ban on them legally without any problem from other countries." John smiled a bit as he nodded and spoke, "Okay, we will go this way, keep certain conditions on their publishing, like they aren't allowed to publish fake news, defamation, and other things like biased manipulation of facts, i.e. they need to take responsibility for their words or they can face libel suits for defamation. Make a petition for libel laws to the Parliament for publishing companies even if it is state-owned. So this will signal the businesses that we are opening up our publishing industry and they can buy printing machines after completing the formalities. However, deals with the Radiant Church and other countries, etc., in regards to their state ideological propaganda are banned and cannot be carried out without consultations with the Imperial Court, Parliament, and the King directly for now. However, dealings with foreign private companies are allowed as long as it is related to selling their products via ads. I will make a law specifically targeting the Radiant Church indirectly, since they are the main thorn for us. How about this? Businesses are banned to conduct business with organizations carrying out treasonous and harmful activities against the state. Yeah, this should suffice for now. The previous scandals can be useful for us. In the current list of organizations carrying out treasonous and harmful activities, add the Radiant Church after National Security Bureau catches a number of their spies and carries out court cases against them at the Supreme Court. The Radiant Church anyway won't bother sending their men to defend themselves in Sky. Our courts must seem fair to the world so that people from other countries don't question our laws even in private. John continued as he smiled, "As for publishing companies, you can talk with Gray in providing men from the special forces and have Glenn and his men train them as reporters to work in those newspaper companies discreetly. Meanwhile, call a press conference and publish the previous research report by the Cultural Department in the first page of all the newspapers and tell them that all the department heads will be taking courses at various institutes on the new Sky language created by me, and report this decree to all the department heads earlier that it is advisable to learn the Sky language to get better performance results in the year-end for promotions. Smart officials will understand the meaning of my decree, and as far as department heads are concerned, they won't neglect it anyway since they are in politics for so long. You can tell the populace that this language was created by me personally, so there will be lesser resistance. However, the language must not be imposed on common people. As far as other languages are concerned, they will be continued and equally respected, while Sky will become our national language and form a binding identity for our people. Suddenly Sarah's cold voice came to his mind. Damn you plagiarist, give me my damn share and then you complain to me about being a loan shark. Give me my damn royalties and my share of fame in the language that I created and made it sophisticated for you. You have no right to call me a loan shark when you haven't even taken a loan yet. Chapter 284. John sniggered a bit and spoke in his mind. Now you care about rights, give me my damn mecha. Both of us share the same body, so there is no difference. Okay, see ya. John immediately muted Sarah so that he doesn't have to hear the grumbling. Meanwhile, Sarah sniggered and changed the price tag of mecha. Since you like your mecha so much, I will create a pitfall for you. For now, let's just increase the price to 400 million points so he doesn't think too much about the pit I created. John then spoke as he didn't see any changes in the system and asked Taylor, okay, now you can continue. What changes have you witnessed in Sky, and is there any harmful gossip in the Parliament? Even if it is the rivalry between ministers, it is okay. Taylor was a bit hesitant but still decided to speak. Well, I don't bother between the rivalry and conspiracies of new ministers against each other, as all of them are working for the benefit of Sky. However, most of them are not concerned in the rivalry but more focused on improving their portfolios, as a lot of high ministerial posts are open and would be announced on your crowning ceremony in a month. As far as gossip is concerned, there are two issues that plague the ministers and bureaucrats. First is the launch of Sky Central Bank with Sky dollars issued recently, though they are convinced of its power because of the borrowing capacity from the banks for the benefit of Sky. However, they believe you should personally decide the policies of the central bank and should keep a close eye on it for the first few years, since if there is any problem detected later on, it could affect our economy, and no one has previous experience in banking finance since the bank is a new concept for ministers and it would take some time for them to understand it. It would be preferable if you could write a book on the concept of banks for them to understand it in a short period of time. Taylor gave a document about the evaluation from ministers about banks and continued, and as for many of the scholars and bureaucrats who have migrated here since they weren't able to find positions in their own country because of nepotism by nobles /U0026 corruption, have come to a conclusion that because of Sky dollars we would have to inevitably give up our printing technology to other countries or face a lot of spying as well as assassinations, as they would want to get this technology no matter the cost. Not to mention we may also face pressure diplomatically if merchants get accustomed to using Sky dollars and countries start to feel the heat. The problem is that we will hoard all the money from other countries as merchants get accustomed to Sky dollars, and that will be noticed by other countries. Because of this, we will hold the other countries at ransom during conflicts, since we will control the gold and hence control the conclusion of the conflict. So we may face a lot of resistance. John nodded as he understood the problem. Okay, you can assign one of the trusted persons as the president of the central bank as he learns how to operate such a big organization, and at the same time I too will keep an eye on the changing policies of the Sky Central Bank. If I detect any problems, I will issue a special decree to change the policies to immediately stabilize it. Meanwhile, you shouldn't run the banks solely in the form of business, because our banks will run on credit and trust so that the common men can benefit and should never lose their trust in the Sky Central Bank. This is a very important message which you have to pass it on to the new president of Sky Central Bank, and if there is any problem he can directly contact me. Okay, to ease the pressure of bank managers I will write an internal book with guidelines so that they can follow it when they face problems. But this book shouldn't be released to other countries. Do you have anyone who you want to suggest as the new president of Sky Central Bank? And what was the second gossip? Taylor was sweating beads but still spoke. I do have someone who is good at following orders and understanding the intentions of leaders and ministers. Most importantly, he is good at administrative matters, handling big organizations and most importantly managing people. Currently, he is the head of background checks at the administrative HQs named Billy. I also have a report from the National Security Bureau as they worked with them quite frequently due to the nature of work and the collaboration required. They believe that he is a person of conscience when it comes to bigger matters like saving the lives of numerous people. During our resistance against Sky in the previous war, he and his team were the ones that helped NSB, National Security Bureau, in finding out the spies to stop their chaos. Taylor gritted his teeth and spoke, as for the second gossip, I do not know if I should speak this, but a lot of ministers and bureaucrats worriedly gossip in private that our kingdom is without an heir, which is very worrisome, not to mention that, my lord, you are currently unmarried. They worry that in your absence there will be chaos in the kingdom. However, since this is my lord's private affair, no one dares to comment. These worries were relayed to me very discreetly. John sighed as he nodded and thought, Arg, it seems Master Melanie is using those ministers so that I marry Eva. Though the worries of ministers are right, since the bureaucrats and ministers would not get influenced easily on non-worrisome talk. Arg, what do I do? I can't reject her bluntly. John then spoke with an amused expression, and who do they believe should I marry, right now, to allay their fears? Taylor firmed up as if this was his mission and spoke, well, some are of the opinion that you should marry Eva, while some are of the opinion that you should marry Her Highness, Diana. John snorted and spoke, ridiculous, didn't you guys think that you should first ask Eva, Diana, or others' opinion on this matter before speaking to me? Taylor was a bit scared, but he sighed and thought, I have done my work, Master Melanie, Sir Vlad, now you guys can't blame me for not informing His Majesty. Anyway, I expected this answer from His Majesty as he is more focused on the development of Sky currently. But even I am worried that Lord John is not married. A kingdom without heirs is a very worrisome matter to the ministers. Anyway, I better focus on officials' matters for now. John meanwhile sighed and thought, well, I can only drag this matter for now. Taylor nodded and spoke as he changed the topic, what should we do about the security of banks? Currently, we have 1,211 branches all over Sky, and security is scarcely spread, which worries us in case a robbery occurs. John nodded as he spoke, you guys should only keep a nominal amount of gold at the village branches to fulfill the needs of villagers and small merchants over there, so you wouldn't have to spread the security resources. And to solve the problem of money deficit if there is a big deal between merchants. Keep the most money in nearby cities with heavy security, whereby money can be transferred in a few hours to the said branch if they want the money at the same branch. In short, you should concentrate the resources in cities from where the money can be transferred in on a daily basis to the said villages. As for village branches, as they grow they can hire magicians, and we can provide special police personnel or the one who retired later on. Currently, let the local police branches to secure the village bank branches. We will slowly and steadily reform according to my book on banks, but since we are offering interests on deposits, it should attract a lot of people. Anyway, let the local police to guard the banks in case of shortage of personnel. And while transferring large amounts of money, you can hire the local policemen, hunters, and mercenaries for protection. The men who are hired will have to be noted down in official notes after confirming their identity, since the money can be robbed by internal men as well. Taylor flashed as if a bulb was suddenly switched on. Yes, we could always use the local police branches and also hire hunters if we are short on personnel. Okay, I will forward this proposal and increase the policemen required as the villages, towns, and cities transform. My lord, what should we do about loans from new businesses without any foundations? Currently, we are providing only loans to local big and rich farmers or established businesses like the Morgan family, Jack's family, and other prominent figures in the chambers of commerce, as they have considerable assets in the North Frontier City, and so we can recover it if they default. But now a lot of new businesses are forming in the North Frontier City and they are in need of loans. It is particularly so for the new educated class from the Rose Institute. Many are formed by a group of magicians and commoners. But they don't have any collaterals or resources to set up their business. John laughed and spoke, "You should first look at their business plans and models, and if the business plan is good and feasible against the risk involved, then you should look at their backgrounds. If their background is okay, then they can earn back, as they will inevitably repay the loans by working here, so you can pass their loans if they have good potential. Additionally, I had already made the bankruptcy laws, so you can follow them for now. Taylor, this time I noticed that our construction sector has done their work on a very fast speed, unlike what I expected. Are they cutting any corners? I don't want any problems in the rail project, which I have personally endorsed." Taylor smiled as he too remembered his conversation with Refone with regards to speed and spoke, "No, my lord, actually, this thing was imitated by Refone after he watched one particular company buying cement in bulk from us and remodeling houses for some rich merchants according to their needs. After investigation we found that it was a normal company. It was formed by a group of students, elves, earth magicians, and a group of merchants who funded that company initially. This company at first redesigned the manors and palaces according to the customers' needs with the help of elves, and then used the high-grade earth magicians to level the ground according to their needs, where very heavy labor was required, which took a lot of time and money since it was dangerous. So after Refone learned of this, he too incorporated and hired a bunch of earth magicians and elf designers at high salaries to reduce the time required in the construction sector, while at the same time improving the designing wherever his intervention was not required. Additionally, the new Super Mulberry cement is working quite well, and hence the changes you noticed this time around after reading the reports on rails and roads. Because of the use of high-grade earth magicians, the heavy labor of 10 days is reduced to 1 day, because usually, they needed to fully plan the number of resources required and transport men before changing particular geography in the area, and this has also saved a lot of labor costs, as Lord Refone was always worried about work-related injuries. And this has made him quite bold in increasing the speed of his work. Chapter 285. Taylor fumed a bit as he remembered something irritating. "Actually, I really hate that company, because Martha too is influenced by her friends and is building a customized manor that is unique just like them for the Hope restaurant. Though they have done good service for us, however, how can I as a minister live in such luxury? That company is now targeting rich businessmen here and nobles in other countries. Previously, they also got a big order from Blue Paradise to build manor-like stores in cities. Arg, why am I feeling irritated?" John thought as he heard Taylor. It seems Taylor quite hates splashing money. It's okay as long as he doesn't hate the rich as well indiscriminately. John laughed a bit and spoke, "So it was a new company and an ambitious group of people that bought such change in our domain? Good. You must support that company, since they will bring in gold and influence trade with other countries, and also change sky slowly with their success and inspire other people." Taylor, "It is okay to live in luxury as long as it is documented income and you pay the taxes accordingly. You can't be too frugal or your colleagues might become uncomfortable when they are spending." Taylor, "By the way, who got that idea on using elves designers and high-grade earth magicians?" John thought as he heard Taylor. It seems change is already happening in our domain and people are improving sky day by day. It is good that I built institutes so people get educated and become more innovative. Taylor smiled this time and spoke, "From what I know, the founder Elsid of this company, i.e. Dream Construction Works, was previously a slave. Currently, he is still studying at the Rose Institute. It seems he was always thinking of ways to earn money so he could help his family, and that is when he got this idea when he saw the road project being carried out in the city inefficiently. So he, along with 2 earth magicians from his class and a group of children from big merchant households at the institute, founded this company. At the start, they used to take small orders from commoners and small businessmen for remodeling houses, and only later on, when the fathers of those merchants took a look at their company, that they decided to fund this company for their children to learn the business. As for the elves, it was only recently that they employed them. It was actually a group of escorts from Princess Emina's group who wanted to take a look and earn some money when the company of those brats incorporated the elves at the advice of that kid after looking at the designer works of Blue Paradise and clothes of the elves. From what I know, that brat put in quite an effort to get those elves and had given Princess Emina a 22% stake in their company for collaboration. Currently, Princess Emina is going to bring in a whole new bunch of elves from Ionanoer, and they include famous designers as well as low-level nature magicians to build personalized gardens for rich here by her own company. After this successful venture by those brats, it seems she plans to make a professional designer company after looking at the companies who approached her escort team for designing their products after hearing the success story of those brats. Though I hate those brats, I cannot deny that they have bought good changes to Sky. Ah, I almost forgot, it seems Princess Emina wanted to have a meeting with you. And according to the instructions, Lord Endo is transferred here in mainland. He is currently under house arrest under Grey's men. However, he is able to send letters to his family and isn't restricted. John nodded as he thought, Endo, hey, let's wait for Plato and his men to arrive. As for this new construction company, they are quite innovative and have bought a good change in Sky. I hope this continues as this will help in the development of Sky. Maybe I should ask them to remodel our palace and parliament at our new capital Golden Spring City and also at the Misty Valley, the capital of Aurora State. I can't have our administrative headquarters and important departments pale in front of other businesses like Blue Paradise and Dream Construction Works. At this time there was a knock on John's office as both John and Taylor stopped their conversation as they saw that it was already time for John's appointment with the head researcher Will and other businessmen. John smiled and spoke, it seems we were quite grossed in administrative matters that we forgot the time. Head researcher Will, please come in. After opening the door, Will came in with a group of men who had official matters to discuss. John dismissed Taylor for later. Taylor, you can go for now, you should come back later on after completing your official duties for the appointment of ministers and other duties. The distribution of some portfolios will take quite some time. Later on, bring in the reports of the NSB and our media companies for evaluation of various departments. Taylor nodded as he left immediately after handing over some related documents to John's new secretary, Quill, who was a devil. It seems devils who were hidden previously in Elias and other countries had started to migrate and appear openly at Sky after the successful formation of Sky as a kingdom and watching the policies and good atmosphere at Sky. It was only later known that Quill was a devil by John because of his acute senses. John turned to Will and spoke, Researcher Will and others, please come in. We will start the official talks immediately. John's secretary Quill brought the snacks along with official documents that Will had sent to John earlier. John immediately scanned the documents and understood the developments. Meanwhile, Quill took a notepad to make some memos of official discussions. After the formal greetings, Will immediately got to the point and introduced one of his middle-aged colleagues. He had black whitish hair and seemed a scholarly person who would mostly be engaged in research. Your Majesty, this here is Mark. We previously worked at Imperial City. He moved here under my influence before the war. Another reason was because of his lack of funding and inappropriate work which some nobles forced him to do. Currently, he is currently working at North Frontier Times and also is a student at Rose Institute as he required some resources of the institute to conduct his experiments. He has invented something which may interest you as he plans to launch it for auction later on. He was quite reserved previously, so he has consulted me. Mark, bring that thing out. Mark nodded as he offered his greetings and brought out a newspaper of 2 days back and gave it to John. As soon as John took the newspaper, he was quite shocked after watching it because the pictures in the newspaper were moving as if it was in a movie in his previous life. After 30 seconds, the pictures stopped moving after depicting the events related to the news. The same was observed in other news columns that had pictures. This also explained the events in detail to the consumers. Chapter 286. Mark smiled as he expectedly saw the shocked face of John and some businessmen behind him and started his explanation to John and Quill. Your Majesty, this was only possible after using the newly introduced camera and the theory of prototype projector in the new camera we developed, which was only used by the journalists or the researchers in the institute. Previously I was quite intrigued after watching the newspapers with perfect images of people, and hence decided to go to Rose Institute as I wanted to do some experiments for my theory. The thing is, I had already made an illusion ink formula that could be useful to the artists, but it never showed its true value, as pictures that are drawn were never aligned with other frames, and hence disharmony was there in work of arts. It was mostly used on the covers pages of some premium books, as it required less detail on one cover page. He also showed a book and continued his explanation. The thing is, we at the institute made a camera which could record movies in a photo with memory magic and illusion magic. Another is that we at the North Frontier Times made an inscription printer which would inscribe a magical seal of the same moving photos with illusion memory ink on the papers after using the same picture as the base. So there are two steps in the production. First is recording a particular event with the illusion memory camera, and the second is inscribing that particular event on another paper using illusion ink and inscription printer. This inscription printer can only be used by common magic crystals to inscribe a magical seal. John was quite surprised and at the same time nodded as he understood the theme and asked, "I understand, this is quite a good innovation, so where is the problem?" "I don't think there should be any problem, as we have a commerce industry that encourages innovation. You guys shouldn't be worried about any restrictions." Quill thought as he wrote the memos and looked at Mark. It seems he is worried about legal problems because of the technology level of this camera, printer, and illusion ink. Mark nodded and continued, "The problem is that according to our contract with the Rose Institute, a student has to provide a 3% stake to Rose Institute without dilution for the first 3 years if the important resources and information is provided by the Rose Institute if they invent something. Like here, where we specifically used the cameras and projectors, which has not been made public for use." John thought as he furrowed his brows and spoke, "First things first, have you divided the profit sharing between individuals in various collaborations so as reduce the problems? As far as I am concerned, I don't think there should be a problem with 3%. Right? Or is it high? If it is, we can make some changes to suit everyone's needs. However, you must understand that the money would inevitably be used for cultivating new students." Mark nodded and spoke, No, we don't have a problem with that. But it is the unintended and untimely collaboration that is creating the problem, as some people want collaboration with Sky Times. I would rather want to auction it because of some conflict of interests. Some want to collaborate with some businesses. And there is also a division between the camera/projector research department and the printing department when it comes to the pie, as they were divided to focus on their field previously. Currently, the printing department is earning loads while it is not the same for the camera department. And both want a greater share of this collaboration, reputation, or fame. And because of this, we are in a jeopardy, but we don't want to offend the researchers on various departments as well. John understood that the departments were fighting for merits, and hence he immediately spoke, "Okay, we will go this way. Who made the memory/illusion camera? And is the profit generation divided for the intended invention, or else it would be quite problematic?" Mark nodded and another man answered immediately, "It was us, 2 guys, from the Rose Institute. And yes, we have divided it equally before coming to this meeting." John nodded and spoke, "Good, then simply create an illusion camera company. I will anyway release the cameras to the public use later on, since you guys were able to understand its mechanism and functions. As far as its classification, because a sensitive technology is concerned, the state won't be interfering in it and opening it up for the regular public. Soon the Parliament will relax the regulations on many departments, as it is also my intention to relax some industries to stimulate growth. I hope this should allay the legal concerns of you as well as the other shareholders of this project. This should also solve the interests of the camera/projectors research department, as other departments won't get a share on cameras research, and to others, I will tell you and all the others present here that, no, those 2 divisions will not be combined again. Both of their directions in innovation will be different. Meanwhile, John's secretary Quill was immediately noting down the details of the same and understood the intent behind John's declaration. John then asked, "And who created the illusion inscription machine?" Mark took out a document and spoke. "It was 3 parties, I along with the North Frontier Times newspaper agency and the 2 men who were working under Tornwall previously. One is a human and the other one is a dwarf, and both of them only want to collaborate with Sky Times, which is one of the competitors of North Frontier Times. Funding and resources of this project were provided by North Frontier Times in form of money and experimenting with one of their printers, idea_U0026. Designing of the machine were provided by me, while the expertise along with technical data work for making the inscribed printer was provided by the 2 men." John nodded and understood as he spoke. "Well, you guys should also create a company and finish the dispute early via company laws. As far as the ban on selling the machine is concerned, it is only applicable to the state agencies of other countries like nobles and the royal family or the Radiant Church. You shouldn't be worried about it. I hope this clears your problems in regards to collaborative as well as legal and state problems, since it was a sensitive technology. This ban would also be lifted in 5 years when people can produce these printers. You can create a private company producing inscribing printers and illusion magic inks, so there is no problem with it. However, you must consult the relevant authorities if you are selling shares above 4% to individuals not belonging to the country. It seems we will also have to create patent laws to protect companies with 7 years of validity, or else some companies can become a monopoly in certain technologies and lose their motivation to innovate and improve." John thought and muttered, "It seems I have to get rid of that 3% in the Rose Institute and instead go with full funding on promising projects via our Sky Central Bank as state subsidies, where the institute and the inventors can own the data. And the places where we don't provide sensitive resources or data, it should solely belong to the individual." This time the Rose Institute profited quite a bit as printing tech was quite open in public for now. Maybe I should consult Sarah for making the policies of the Rose Institute for compatibility with this era. Mr. Wool too smiled as he understood the importance of this technology and hence introduced Mark. He spoke, "Forgive my colleague as he is quite slow when it comes to business and legal affairs, Your Majesty. My main intention in bringing him was so that if Sky intended to make this a classified tech to be used in the military by spies, then it was necessary to meet you first and decide, hence the abrupt meeting." John nodded and spoke, "It is okay, I understand your concerns and those of the shareholders of other companies. Anyway, we will be giving up the printing tech to other countries to stabilize the situation, as we have created banks, so I understand your concerns. Anyway, won't you consider becoming the Minister of Magic, Science and Technology of Sky anytime soon?" Quite a lot of people were surprised after hearing this offer from John to Will in front of so many people. Will shook his head with difficulty and spoke with a firm determination, "My lord, I am in a difficult position with such an open offer. I can't, I am a businessman, and hence this will create a conflict of interest. Unlike some researchers and magicians who disdain businessmen, I know the difficulties of pursuing your own path when you don't have a single penny. However, when it comes to defense collaboration, I will always be at your service. Your Majesty, I would like to introduce you to another man. This man here is Mr. Donovan of Donovan Theatre Troupe. I had quite some interactions with him as he wanted to invest in anything related to the entertainment industry, and hence I introduced him about the projectors when I previously visited Rose Institute, and when he heard of projectors' functions he was quite interested in it and wanted to see the projectors for further investment." John meanwhile sighed at the firm rejection of Will, as he was intending to recruit him by putting him in a difficult position in front of many people where Will couldn't reject him. John thought, "Well, I can't be petty about a rejection. I guess I am bad at headhunting, I may as well try another method next time. Maybe I can still make him a professor at Rose Institute's Magic Engineering Department." Chapter 287. A lot of people were quite surprised by Will's firm rejection, while John wasn't, and understood his motivations, that he didn't want to get involved in politics. John smiled as he had long seen Donovan, who was hiding in the crowd. "We meet again, Mr. Donovan. You are quite shy in today's meeting. A handsome middle-aged man with the demeanor of a noble, he had red hair and some white hair, came forward and spoke eloquently, "My lord, I was sincerely interested in projectors, and it had nothing to do with printers or any roundabout way to interact with officials for inquiring about printers. So I just hoped that you won't misunderstand me." John nodded, as he had quite an impression of the man, as Donovan had previously helped him in propaganda against Prince Hector. "It's okay, I was previously a businessman and hence understand your persistence. You can anyway buy the printers or hire other printing companies for publishing books when we pass the relaxation of laws and regulations in a few days, so don't worry about it. However, all the books published in Sky will go through an inspection for preferred age groups before publication, so you must be careful regarding that, and if possible you should consult a lawyer to check if there are any legal problems with your book so that your company doesn't get sued later on, since we are passing libel laws very shortly. So what about the projectors? Do you want to invest in it? I think they are still at an experimental stage as far as I am concerned. It still cannot produce sounds, and it only works as a medium to see and not to hear for now. It might take some time to synchronize voice and the moving pictures." Looking at the middle-aged man, John thought, "It looks like we can see a rise of a media and an entertainment mogul, since he is quite stubborn when it comes to the entertainment business. Anyway, supporting his company will form a pilot project for us in bringing up other companies in this field and also new industries." As soon as Donovan heard that he can buy the printers, he was happy beyond belief. Donovan composed himself and spoke, "Your Majesty, I heard the same from Drive. Well, but I intended to make movies without sounds at the start to increase our profits, as we would be able to broadcast the same in multiple theaters and also improvise the acting skills of our crew, as well as edit and reshoot the weaker parts and improve our dramas. Currently, we own 15 theaters in Sky, of which we rent 10 of them to other crews, so I would like to improvise on the profits via using the projectors and cameras for shooting movies. Meanwhile, we will also create our own research center for the improvements to the projectors for improvements in the entertainment industry." Donovan thought, even if the new projectors with sound are out in 4 to 8 months, we will be able to capture the market and make a good impression on the consumers of our company at the same time. So this will be quite a profitable investment. John nodded and spoke, "Okay, since you are confident that you can do good business via the prototype, then there should be no problem and we cannot be blamed. You will have to make your checks before buying the prototypes. We will however provide the after-sales service and spares via the company for all the types of equipment like Sky cameras and projectors. I will meanwhile authorize our relevant departments at the company and government to sell the projectors." Donovan then tacitly asked, "My lord, if we make any improvements on the projectors, then it can be owned by us, right?" John nodded and spoke, "Yes, there won't be a problem. You would have to register your research in Trademark, Registration, and Patents Office if you want to protect your rights, or else you won't be able to sue other competitors if they are able to steal your tech via spies. I think you are already aware of how business works, right?" Donovan sighed with relief and then thought, "I should hire some graduates from the institute who are good at engineering and have worked with projectors, and maybe the sound magicians I hired will be able to improvise the projectors via using sound magic and memory magic arrays. I should also contact those 2 inscribers of North Frontier Times to make a sound recording machine integrated with the projector for us. This will surely make us filthy rich in the entertainment industry. Anyway, I should first buy these magic cameras, as we can film some good professional advertisements for certain businesses in the newspapers with our celebrities. I should also change my company name to Donovan Entertainment, since we are entering multiple fields." Donovan nodded as he got an authorization document from John's secretary Quill to buy the projectors. After taking care of all the important businessmen of Sky for the future legal affairs, only John and Will were present at the office. Will spoke after those businessmen left the administrative headquarters, "Your Majesty, is it okay to relax so many media-sensitive industries at once?" John smiled as he faced this question from his other conservative ministers as well. "I understand your worries. However, currently, we have borrowed a lot of public money for our infrastructure projects, and hence I am opening some industries and technologies so that the businessmen from other countries start investing over here after looking at this big pie. This is also so that it can stimulate fast growth. Additionally, the creation of banks will inevitably leak the printing technology to other countries, as our banks are going to destabilize their financial system, which will be noticed in some time now when the border officials of other countries see a change in the inflow and outflow of gold, with more merchants dealing in sky dollars instead of gold at border villages. Basically, we are grabbing their breakfast, lunch, and dinner money, and hence should expect extreme reactions if we monopolize the printers. Anyway, the value of sky dollars is anyway going to increase with or without gold when our financials and economy starts fattening up because of our banks improving the efficiency of commerce. The difference between their economies and ours is that they focus mostly on agriculture and the military, but we will focus on most of the sectors, i.e. agriculture, commerce, services, and technology equally. Anyway, this is part of the bigger outlook and plan that I am opening up some sectors, and it is also to improve the standard of living of our people. Additionally, our media is going to condition the people socially according to our national needs, and hence a bigger reach is good internally. I intend to use the media to increase the interactions between humans, demons, elves, dwarves, beasts, devils, and all the other species in Sky, so that other countries are not able to create conflicts between races in the future, at Sky at least. Additionally, opening up our printing sector will inevitably increase the exports of our paper, since it quite cheap and hence earn loads of export income. Will was quite surprised after hearing this and understood. I understand now, my lord. Will hesitated a bit and didn't speak, as he thought that social engineering shouldn't be done. John smiled and understood his thinking. Will, you must understand that every form of literature is propaganda, and this is the conclusion that I came up with after my observation of the world. Every person has their biases, and hence even if someone doesn't want to be partial, he will be partial subconsciously. So it is better to accept some of your own flaws and make it a strong point, but in a righteous way. This time Sarah spoke in his head in a shocked tone. Surprisingly, you are quite perceptive in worldly affairs. Here, take this book of policies for implementation of stock and financial markets that you wanted so badly to make firm policies and increase growth. John was quite surprised after hearing Sarah and didn't speak. Will too thought for a long time and came to the same conclusion as he nodded deeply and spoke. I thank your Majesty for enlightening me about your social observations. I too will try to improve myself and the people around me. I will get back to business, your Majesty. Tim has successfully made the lowered down versions of ships and also the production lines that can be used to make ships to be sold to other countries from the next month. Tim has handled quite efficiently at Aurora and trained a number of engineers at our state-funded Aurora shipyard works. We also have magic power conversion machines in the military training areas for our spies, special forces, and also at your palace. It is so that you can cultivate the magicians. People would only think that the place has a magic vein and won't suspect anything. John nodded and sighed deeply as he thought, I guess this will only increase the arms and technology race between the countries. Anyway, countries wouldn't stop wars at any time. I guess I can only change this world step by step. Anyway, I can bait other countries to prepare to attack us in the future, and that is when I will make my move, when they feel that they are strong enough to attack us. Our bordering countries will most likely backstab us, so I should prepare for the worst. John nodded and dismissed Will. You should go for now and prepare for the arrival for the emissaries from Elias and other countries. Will nodded and left immediately with others after completing all the official business talks. Chapter 288. John turned to his secretary Quill and spoke. Meanwhile, call Tornwall, Gray and Arlen from their research, military, and intelligence departments. Quill nodded and spoke as he returned to his duties. Yes, my lord. After a few hours, all the 3 department heads were at John's office. Tornwall, Gray, and Arlen all were quite surprised to be summoned at the same time and understood that it was an important matter, and hence the immediate summon from John. John immediately spoke and asked Tornwall, I am sure you got the blueprints of the agricultural machines from Taylor today in the morning. I am sure you understand the significance of those machines and also their functions. How much time would you take for making the production lines? Tornwall nodded and gave some documents in which he had written some of his plans. Your Majesty, we actually have most of the production lines for the parts required to make the machines and only need 43% of the production lines to fully make the agricultural machines. My men too can make these machines as most of them currently have enough knowledge and experience to make them. So they should be able to start production in 10 days if we also use the high-grade magicians. This will increase the pace of work in making the production lines. But equipping all the farmers in Sky will require a lot of iron ore and other rare earth metals. I expect this order to increase the manufacturing of steel and other alloys and also a need for expanding the factories because of the big order and short time. We can maybe order some non-essential spares from other workshops and assemble it at our factory. John nodded and spoke gravely. There should be no problem with it as this would be my flagship project that would be paid from my own pocket to increase the prestige when I officially get crowned as the king next month. This machinery will be made by my company John Engineering Works and no corners should be missed when making the machines. I am also doing this to reduce the bureaucratic procedures and rent it to the farmers at minimal costs with their identification cards after the production starts. The thing is I want to keep this under wraps until I officially announce it. Okay, apart from political works I will come to the main point. I want you guys to immediately form a secret base for Department of Sky Defense Research, DSDR, for experimentation and innovation of future military weapons hidden from the eyes of other countries. If possible you guys should make an underground base. Currently, I want you to make some advanced sensor mines and time bombs that can be used in future battlefields or assassination missions. I will, later on, give other projects so you shouldn't worry. As for documentation from the Parliament, you will get it in a few days. This will not be discussed in public and the bill will be passed in a discreet manner since it is related to national security, so only top ministers and I will be involved in passing the bill. You can start the work soon and apply for funds from Quill. Here is my take decree, take it as it will be useful when you encounter problems from the civil administration. Even though we are at peace currently, we should be careful of other countries and not slack off or we would be caught napping. You guys can later on contact Arlen after he finishes his important projects. Both Arlen and Gray immediately understood the intention and nodded quickly as they kneeled to take the decree as this was related to the country's security. Meanwhile, Tornwall too nodded and understood as he kneeled. John nodded seriously and spoke immediately. Tornwall, you are appointed as the head of military research at DSDR. Gray, you will be appointed as the National Security Advisor of Sky and will gain control of the National Security Bureau after my crowning ceremony. Arlen, you will become the Marshal General of Sky. All three of them accepted the decree and roared in unison, this subject accepts the decree and faith shown by His Majesty. Arlen was stunned for a bit but immediately understood. He spoke as he was quite concerned about one matter. My lord, there will be quite some resistance in the military because of your reputation as Anak as they don't know about you. John smiled as Arlen immediately guessed his identity and nodded as he spoke. Okay, you can spread the rumor of me being Anak via Blue Paradise magazine in the gossip column. Diril will cooperate with you as he and Master know about my identity as Anak. Diana too will help as I will personally tell her. So this shall reduce the resistance in military as they should understand that I have other duties to manage as a sovereign. John nodded and thought, I guess I should announce the ministries and division of powers now. Anyway, I have evaluated most of them so there shouldn't be any problem. John this time used a forceful tone and spoke very seriously to be heard by everyone. Quill, write my decree for all the relevant department heads. Billy Undertaylor will be appointed as the President of Sky Central Bank. Joseph Morgan will be appointed as head at the Ministries of Chambers of Commerce. Gordon and Arnold will be appointed as head and deputy in Logistics and Transport Ministry as they have gained quite some experience. Arnold can, later on, take the Ministry of Railways to divide the work. Wilson will as usually handle the Agricultural Ministry of Sky. Blake will be the appointed as a Fleet Admiral of the Navy, while Eric will be a Great Admiral at Aurora under Blake. Sam will continue his appointment as the mayor of North Frontier City. Gene will be appointed as the mayor of Golden Spring City after Capitol is built, and it will require his energy to work the Capitol ministers to the bone. John continued, Jay will be transferred to Center as a Minister of Internal Affairs. Glenn will officially head the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting i.e. he will be handling all forms of media. Currently, I am quite satisfied with Bruce's work for now, so I intend to appoint him in the Ministry of Planning and as a chief strategist for Sky. While Taylor will be appointed as a Prime Minister, and he will also be handling the Ministry of Finance and Corporate Affairs. There are also other ministries, but they will be discussed later on after I get reports on their evaluation. Most of the important ministries have been decided. The only important ministries left are Ministry of Education, which I will be watching as well. Well, I anyway intend to recruit Professor Will in education since he won't resist this post. Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Magic, Ministry of Technology, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Shipping, Ministry of Power after we popularize electrical and magical machines, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Housing and Infrastructure Development will be appointed later on, according to the achievements of officials and ministers in their various fields. While Ministry of Railways will be given after it is completed to Arnold. John looked that no one refuted as he continued, this distribution of power is done so as to bring out maximum efficiency and reduce the workload of leaders and department heads. I am sure Quill and other ministers are too loaded with paperwork every day from other ministries, and it is better to divide some power into efficient hands. And yes, Quill will be handling the Ministry of Law and Justice and will act as a Secretary of State for now, so you guys should give him and his position the due respect. He has previously trained under Taylor and has not been under much limelight deliberately to hide himself getting exposed as a devil, as he was suspicious previously. Changes in various laws and regulations will be subject to Parliament or direct petitions to me. As for the ministries that will become vacant, I hope the concerned heads of the departments write their recommendations on who is most suitable for their position after they take their new roles. I also have recommendations from our media. John continued with a strict tone, after a thorough evaluation by my office and other agencies, the persons will be appointed as heads of departments which will become vacant after all the ministers appointed today take their new roles. Currently, after my crowning ceremony, the deputies can act as temporary heads. I hope all the concerned departments are informed of this matter beforehand to avoid confusion on the crowning ceremony day. The evaluation of deputies and other recommended leaders will start after we sign the peace treaty in the following days. Other less important ministries will be handled according to the regulations. Is this clear to everyone? John meanwhile thought, only the ghosts and Department of Guild Management and Magic need a peculiar reorganization for better efficiency. Everyone in the room understood the significance of this decree and also the reshuffle in the cabinet along with the redistribution of powers. John spoke as he signaled Quill to give Arlen his decree. Arlen, you should bring a plan for the reorganization of our army for better efficiency along with the number of men required before I get crowned. I have selected you after a detailed observation, so don't let me down. Power of Sky Military, Navy and Air Forces will be separated, and the forces cannot command each other and can only be commanded by me or in my absence, a Premier of Defense appointed by the Parliament with a majority vote in case of a war. If there is a problem, you are free to contact me. Air squadrons are not formed as of yet, but it will as soon as we get a suitable mount. And yes, Gray and Arlen, you guys can give some good news to the mates at barracks and department that all the soldiers will at least be given 150 acres of land as a reward. Anything extra will be given according to the merits, ranks, and other evaluations on the day of the crowning ceremony. The soldiers retired due to heavy injuries will be given appropriate positions in civil administration. If they are instead opening a business, they can get some state benefits because of their sacrifice for Sky. Arlen nodded fiercely with a salute as he took the decree. This subject accepts the decree of His Majesty. Gray too was quite touched and nodded as he accepted the decree. Before everyone was leaving, Quill hesitated a bit but spoke as he was a perfectionist and wanted to clear the doubt of only one organization that was left and was very important. Master, what about the ghosts? Is there any new plan for them since most of the departments are undergoing change? John nodded and spoke, I have left it deliberately. It will remain in the hands of Diril as he is a very competent fellow. I plan to reshuffle some of the personnel in Ghosts and bring in Billy's subordinate Sparrow to head the Counterintelligence Bureau of the Ghosts to collect information of foreign spies on our land while NSB will expertise on field activities. Well, the Counterintelligence Bureau will be working with both NSB and Ghosts together. Quill remembered about Sparrow as he read some reports where Sparrow had received an excellent evaluation on a lot of projects relating to background checks. Quill thought, I guess, His Majesty is planning to recruit Lord Vlad in Ministry of Defense but has gotten rejected quite a lot of times already and is waiting for an opportunity. Master Vlad would most likely reject him again unless ordered by Duke Friedreich. As for Ghosts, it seems Lord doesn't want others to get power over them in case of misuse and also to keep an eye on the kingdom from a distance. Well, that's expected as His Majesty doesn't want any one faction to gain absolute power and become corrupt when drunk in power. I guess this will be standard practice. Anyway, I better prepare all the decrees and letters of appointment and send them to the various heads of the department. It seems today was and will be quite a hectic day. Tornwall nodded and only spoke now, Your Majesty, I hope Redbeard takes my position in some of the state weapon factories as the head as it will be quite impossible for me to handle all of the departments as I will be heading DSDR and also the project of railways is under me and Refone. As for the agriculture machinery, I hope to deploy one of the subordinates of Redbeard, Surround to head it and also gain valuable experience in management. At the gates of the office hall, one of the chief guards came up and spoke to Quill as there was an important meeting going on. Quill got a report from the guard and spoke to John about some developments. John nodded as he agreed to Tornwall and spoke, I think I heard about him previously. Wasn't he the one who gained the respect of all the engineers at the cannon manufacturing workshop some time ago during the war? Okay, there should be no problem, and since you have this much confidence in that boy then he must be a talented brat. Okay, it is settled. He can manage John Engineering Works for the production of agricultural machines. Okay, every one of you is dismissed. I will leave to meet my master Melanie and Duke Friedreich immediately. Everyone nodded and all of them left while Quill only remained with John. Chapter 289. John asked Quill now that others had left, Quill, do you have opinions on how to keep a check on corruption by officials in Sky? Quill nodded and spoke as he knew about John's conversation with Taylor previously, I do. I suggest my lord keep a keen eye on Inspection Bureau via various other organizations so that although the Inspection Bureau would have a very big sword in their hands against corrupt ministers, however, they too will have a big sword hanging around their neck if they engage in corrupt practices. You should try to get separate reports from your men in media, Ghosts as they work directly under you, and you can also ask Master Vlad and NSB. You can also ask private detective organizations to investigate them secretly from time to time without letting anyone know of this. Meanwhile, at the same time to keep the Inspection Bureau highly motivated to root out corruption from Sky, you should give them enough merits and reward to the people cracking these cases in the form of political power in other ministries involving audits and material benefits like bonuses of gold, fame, or land, or with promotions and recognition in the Inspection Bureau itself. And I hope you also let them know that they too will be under surveillance from time to time so that they understand the responsibility and importance of their position and do their work without corrupt practices. John nodded, agreeing as he spoke, yes, this will keep a balance of power between all the sides. We will go according to your proposed way. However, if any of the institutions is found influencing the Inspection Bureau, then they should expect the punishments for this, as I will be secretly making private organizations investigate both the sides if they have any relations or collaborations. You can also tell all the media companies to conduct a survey from the local populace on the performance of their various leaders from time to time, i.e. every 3 years. Every media will conduct a survey separately so I can get a better idea of the work practices and get accountability from the leaders in case of big mistakes. The most important thing is that leaders shouldn't hide their mistakes and immediately report on it to the higher UPS. We can also use the Ghosts, National Security Bureau and private investigative organizations to conduct the surveys too, as I wouldn't want any corrupt leaders in important positions bribing their way out to the media and cover it up. This solution of yours has surely solved my problems of keeping corruption in check and making a balance of power among all the organizations. John continued as he remembered about the two important organizations he wanted to create for a long time. Also write this down. Currently, I am planning to create two important organizations which will be important in the future for the improvement of commercial enterprises and to create an environment for companies for raising investment. First is the Sky Securities and Exchange Commission, as I plan to create the stock exchange where people can raise money as well as invest money in various companies. For this, I will be writing a book for concerned regulations and on how to maintain it. The first two stock exchanges will be created in our new capital Golden Spring City as Golden Spring Stock Exchange, and second will be at Aurora as Aurora Stock Exchange, and then the Sky Stock Exchange involving the whole of Sky. Second thing is the Food and Drug Administration Department to keep a check on large-scale companies selling food and pharma products which will be circulated in our market. For that too I will be writing down the required standards. Currently, our focus will be on pharma companies so that the companies can't sell fake or defective products and fool our subjects. As for you, how do you plan to divide the power in the Ministry of Law and Justice? Quill was quite surprised after hearing the plans of John regarding the stock exchange and spoke immediately. I plan to divide the powers between 11 Chief Justices of Sky in the 53 Supreme Courts currently as planned. When it comes to the important scandals and decisions, the powers will be divided between 3 sets of jury, one jury consisting of retired judges, one jury consisting of prominent lawyers focused on the case, and one consisting of commoners who have previously earned Samaritan awards and have a good reputation among the locals, as they too can influence the result of a trial. However, the decision can only be taken with great discussion by the jury of judges and the main judge himself, as laws can't be broken easily. However, if the common people's sentiment is against the rules of law as it carries out the sentiment of injustice, then we will have to make some changes in the law for future trials based on the verdict and proceedings of the trial as a base, and also use the arguments of all the juries. I also plan to create special fast-track military and treason courts for the fast trials of spies as well as traitors, so that foreign countries can't misuse our laws against us to create civil unrest. John nodded and spoke, I guess you won't need my help in dividing powers or reorganization of courts, as you have a complete idea on our laws and are completely prepared in the division of powers. I will just remind you, choose the Chief Justices of the Supreme Courts carefully, as you may encounter a lot of spies trying to get the top jobs to influence our laws slowly, so you must be careful. I will anyway keep a close eye on the change of laws, and if necessary I will pass a decree if the laws can have long-term effects in the future which might not be seen in present. Anyway, let's head out and meet Duke Friedreich. Quill nodded as he too understood the importance of his position. Quill, my lord, there is one more thing which I would like to inform you, as you would like to know beforehand. John nodded for Quill to continue as they headed to the palace where Melanie and Friedreich were waiting. Quill spoke seriously, as you had previously expected. Other species have started emerging after you officially announced the laws, and also because of the on-ground situation where everything is going according to the law. Previously they used to hide their identity in Elias just like us devils. Currently, some races have emerged in Sky. One is the vampire clan, demon dragons, chaos demons, sylphs, dark elves, and others are medusas. While at Aurora, from the report of Tim, we had encountered races of titans who are 1-3 times bigger than us, fairies, indigenous humans, sirens, succubus incubus, lizardmen and others who were hiding in Aurora. However, he had successfully made them join Sky with multiple measures. But one of the most important factors in them joining us was the strength and capability to feed and protect them, while at the same time the cohesion of different species in Sky that has reassured them of law and order. I just got this information before we were leaving from Gray's men at the NSB. So I hoped to inform you earlier. John nodded and spoke, it's okay, I expected this situation to arise after the formation of Sky, so there shouldn't be any worries as they are anyway accepting our laws. Ross will be able to handle this situation since he already knows how to proceed. It is anyway good that they showed up early and the situation didn't end up in a conflict. Later inform Joseph and Jack that I want to discuss something important as it is related to the formation of our Securities and Exchange Commission. This way, the new and small businessmen may get investment from other investors who are only interested in investing in profitable businesses and are not afraid of taking risks. This is so that the burden of banks can reduce to support the companies. It seems both of them are already fighting. John sighed as he already sensed the bickering between Friedrich and Melanie from quite a distance. Quill nodded as he noted down and understood the significance of the Securities and Exchange Commission for the commercial development of Sky. He thought, investors who are willing to take risks in certain risky but profitable businesses that our banks might avoid. Hey, now this looks promising for commercial development of Sky. I guess some countries might try to copy us but won't be able to gain as much success because of the lack of understanding of this system, and they might also be cautious and hence take conservative decisions and not to forget the influence of the nobles that will regress the system. Quill nodded and immediately followed John to the palace. Very quickly they reached the palace. Currently, John released a bit of magic power and exhibited the aura of a king as a lot of guards from Friedrich's escort team were shocked to see him exhibiting the aura of a general of an army as well as of a powerful king. Commander Lion too was quite surprised after watching John's demeanor as he walked into the palace and thought, no wonder, just watching his demeanor I understand why he was able to command people under him to rebel against Elias. Well, with his scheme against Elias, no one should underestimate him for his young age. Chapter 290. One of the guards announced John's arrival, which stopped the bickering between Friedrich and Melanie as Vlad sighed with relief and thought, it good that Taylor did speak to John previously about Miss Diana, or Lord Friedrich would have chewed me up. Anyway, we got some useful information which we can use for today's meeting. Well, I only expect official business talks for now. Anyway, His Highness is here at Sky till John's crowning ceremony, so there will be a lot of time. I hope our plan works today. Duke Friedrich smiled as he first made his formal greeting to John, my greeting to His Highness, John Sky, for his successful battle against the invading forces of Elias and chasing them away. John nodded and spoke in a calm manner, you overpraise me, Lord Duke. I am still not crowned yet. As for the previous battle, I wouldn't have won without my men. And I wouldn't have fought unless we were pressed into the corner because of the sanctions. Everyone present sheepishly smiled as they understood the meaning behind both of their tones and also the greetings to each other. A lot of bureaucrats and ministers from Sky were also present over here. One of them was the foreign minister of Elias to Sky, Lord Ambassador Luke. He thought as he looked at their pleasantries, I guess the peace trade deal with Elias is a done deal after listening to the tone of His Majesty Sky. Meanwhile, Lord Duke wants to create more trouble between Sky and Elias. Anyway, this is a good sign for us. I better keep a good watch on this banquet. Diana had immediately rushed to meet Frederick. She meanwhile was quite stunned with the formal greeting between both John and Friedrich. She was going to speak when Vlad interfered and signaled for her to stop. She thought and understood immediately, now, this is suspicious. Both of them are talking formally, but knowing their personalities they usually won't talk in a formal manner. Father and John both usually talk like that when they are going to talk about official business. It seems both of them don't want to seem very close, or else Apollyon or some of the ministers might get anxious and plot against Blucia. As for John, it might be related to the North-South peace trade deal. Yes, this might be the reason. Anyway, let's go with the flow as I don't have any restrictions. Diana then nodded to Vlad and signaled him that she understood, as smiled and spoke to Frederick, Father, you just came and went to meet John without even coming to meet me. This is very unfair. You are back to work as soon as you arrived here. You would be quite proud after looking at the success of my business. Both you and John should take a rest from work rather than plotting something every day or developing something. There was an awkward smile between all the officials who came to this meeting as they understood but couldn't dare to speak these words. Vlad sighed and thought, I guess we can't stop Her Highness from speaking anyway. She anyway won't speak anything inappropriate. It should be okay as long as it is teasing both Lord and John. Friedrich removed his awkward smile and nodded as he spoke righteously. It seems, I was indeed working too hard and hence had decided to tour Sky and tour here for a month until John's ceremony, as Sky has given me quite a lot of surprises. I heard from Vlad previously that you had indeed succeeded in a good venture. We will talk later. You should go with that I mean Grand Podi One or Melanie. Both Friedrich and Melanie viewed each other with squinted eyes as if they were rivals. Melanie meanwhile thought, this cunning old coot wants to get rid of me using her own daughter. Humph, in his dreams. Meanwhile that Dwight couldn't even make a move all these days. I have to teach him a lesson. Melanie snorted and spoke, old coot, you can piss off if you want to. I am attending this meeting in my capacity as one of the senior officials today. You think just because I don't attend these meetings means that I don't exist and won't interfere? Humph, in your dreams. All the officials sighed as no one dared to interfere between them, as they understood the power both Melanie and Duke Friedrich held in their hands. Looking at the silence, at this time, it was Quill who spoke immediately. I think it would be better if His Majesty John, Lord Melanie, Lord Vlad, and Lord Grand Duke Friedrich speak in private before we can discuss the important parts of the deal, which we can speak openly. No one objected, as it was already decided beforehand about the meeting. A lot of people also noted Quill's position among the ministers and also the fact that he spoke to dissolve the problem between Melanie and Frederick. Friedrich smiled as he approached Diana enthusiastically and whispered in her ears, "You should wait for later. Vlad told me everything, so you shouldn't be worried. I guess I can still have my way since I came prepared for today's discussions. I just can't wait to hold my grandchild." Friedrich told and immediately headed inside without even looking at her daughter. Diana thought deeply as she looked angrily at Vlad as she blushed and thought, "Don't tell me he knows about that plan, damn you, Vlad. For how long have you been reporting my activities to father? Just you wait, you are not getting away from it this time around. I will certainly remove your flesh and feed it to dogs. Just you wait, don't you damn ruin anything or you will regret it for life." Vlad sighed and thought, "I guess I would have been grilled either way. And she anyway likes John but is too shy since a long time ago when she arrived at the North Frontier town. It's good that I already informed Lord Duke that Her Highness with the help of Blue Paradise is designing the crowning clothes for John so he can be assured of her feelings and plan ahead. And this is also the reason why all of these brats are busy these days. And from the looks of John, it seems he too likes her but is quite resistant for some reason. Anyway, this meeting today will certainly become a catalyst of this topic whether he likes or not. He can't deliberately ignore the feelings of Her Highness even though he knows about it." Eva, Josephine, and Sally too were quite stunned after watching today's events. Eva meanwhile muttered, "This event looks suspicious. Grandma never usually interferes in administrative matters. Even that Dwight is following me for a long time these days. What do you guys think?" Josephine thought a bit and spoke, "Maybe he is trying to spy on you for medicinal theories and recipes as he might have failed or is too scared to spy on Grandma Melanie. Anyway, beats me." Sally meanwhile remained silent for a bit and spoke, "I guess it is related to the changing realities about war and hence the abrupt meeting and visit by Duke Friedrich. As for Grandma Melanie's motives, I can pretty much guess about it since the time she got you an office next door to John's office in the administrative headquarters. Aren't you, Josephine and Diana, vying for John's time for quite a while now? I think it should be from the time when we faced those wolves in the forest.